Why you can't stop replaying what went wrong. Have you ever replayed something in your mind over and over and over again? Maybe it was a conversation, a decision, maybe a mistake, something you said, something you didn't say. And no matter how much time passes, you still find yourself thinking about it over and over, wondering, what should I have done? Why did I do it that way? Should I have done something different? And if this is you, you are definitely not alone. For many women, especially women who have been trying so hard to get it right for so many years, that it becomes almost an automatic. We tell ourselves we're trying to learn from it, and sometimes we do. But often, we're actually trying to resolve something emotionally that never got resolved. If we haven't met yet, I'm Elaine Louise Stewart, and I help women who are 50 and above who feel like they've lost their way, find their way back to themselves. Today, I want to talk about why we keep replaying things from the past and why simply telling yourself to move on just doesn't work. Years ago, I made a decision that feels, well, now it feels like a small decision. At the time, it was much bigger. I had a Honda car that I had driven for 10 years, and I loved it. It was awesome. But circumstances in my life changed, and I was ready to put the car up for sale. And I took the car in for service. I got it all done. And then they made me an offer to buy my car. And logically, I said, well, this is perfect because then I don't have to put an ad in the paper and blah, 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 blah. So long story short, I sold the car. And afterwards, oh my God, I berated myself. I punished myself over and over again for like, why did you do that? I can't believe you just let go of the car. You didn't get a good price for it or whatever. But the real issue was not really about the car. It was about me acting impulsively. And that's what it felt like. And that's what it was, because I was not connected to my body, to my emotions. And I just sort of jumped right past those. And when I did that, oh my gosh, it was a very painful situation. At the time, I thought I was replaying all of this because I made a bad decision. But really, it wasn't that. I realize now that I had disregarded my emotions, and that is what was nagging at me. That was what was punishing me, if you will. And I think many women do this. We get very good at making decisions, and particularly making decisions quickly. Responsible decisions, efficient decisions. But sometimes we stop listening to ourselves. And that's the problem, right? It's our feelings and that internal sense of what we should do that gets left behind. Earlier this year, I had another dilemma. My 14-year-old cat, who was very healthy at the time, started acting like she was dying. She stopped eating, she was losing weight, and her mouth started to smell really bad. So I took her to the vet, and he took her away, brought her back, and said, let me show you what's going on in her mouth. And he opened her mouth, and she had an ulcerated tumor on the roof of her mouth. And nothing could be done. And there was a part of me that, in my mind, I was saying, well, let's just do this now so I don't have to stress her, bring her, get her back in the cage tomorrow and like that. And thankfully, as I was waffling there, the vet said, just bring her back tomorrow morning. And I was so grateful that he said that because, and I don't think I would have done it anyway, but it gave me the rest of the day and the evening and the next morning to really be with her and hold her and pet her and talk to her and be outside with her where she loved being almost all the time, and just really saying goodbye. Even though I didn't really say those words to her, I didn't want her to be upset. But, and of course, the next morning, brokenhearted, I took her to the vet and she passed on. And what I am so grateful for is I'm still grieving for her. It was only a few months ago. But I didn't do it impulsively. I didn't just let her go and then come home and there I was. I took into account my feelings, and that changed everything for me. So what was different? The situation wasn't easier. The decision wasn't easier. I was different. I learned to stop. I learned to pause. I learned to listen to my internal voice. And I also learned that sometimes it takes some time for my emotional body, if you will, to catch up with what's happening in front of me. I think many times we replay a lot of what happened around us because something in us is still wanting to be heard. Maybe grief hasn't been acknowledged. Maybe fear hasn't been acknowledged. Maybe regret hasn't been acknowledged. Maybe we didn't trust ourselves. Maybe we moved on too quickly. Or maybe we abandoned ourselves in that moment when we most needed to be our whole, complete self. So the next time you find yourself replaying something, instead of asking, what's wrong with me? Why am I doing this? Try asking, what part of me still needs to be heard? That question changes everything because you're no longer fighting with yourself, you're listening to yourself. If you take nothing else from this, here are 3 takeaways that I want you to remember. First, when we make decisions from the neck up and ignore the rest of our body where our emotions are, they get left out of the conversation and we end up replaying it over and over again because there's still part of us that needs to be heard, and it's those emotions. And often you're trying to make sense of something emotionally that hasn't been fully processed yet. Second, the decisions that we regret the most are the ones where we stop listening to ourselves. And third, when we ignore what we're feeling, often that feeling comes back wanting to be heard. So if you're replaying something right now, a decision, a conversation, a loss, grief, I hope you'll be gentle with yourself. There may be something important underneath, something asking for your attention, something asking for your compassion, and perhaps something that's asking you to come back to yourself. If this spoke to you, subscribe, and I'll keep walking this path with you. If you're interested in going deeper, check out my free upcoming webinar, Why You Don't Feel Like Yourself Anymore and How to Find Your Way Back. Click the link in the description box to learn more. You've done brave things before. This is just the next step. And next time, we'll talk about the hidden reasons why you're still getting triggered. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.